Very good morning, welcome to Breakfast with Dan Walker and Louise Minchin.
The headlines for you at 6 o'clock. The number of coronavirus cases in the United States has passed the 1 million mark, amounting to nearly a third of the world's total.
That includes more than 57,000 deaths, which is now more than the number of Americans who were killed in the Vietnam War. Our North America correspondent Peter Bowes reports. Well, the Russian President Vladimir Putin has extended restrictions in the country for 2 more weeks, saying the peak of the outbreak has not yet been reached. The President's admitted there is a shortage of protective kit for medics.
Let's speak now to our Moscow correspondent. Now, Captain Tom Moore's 100th birthday is to be marked with an RAF flypast.
And a very happy birthday in advance. 12 minutes past 6. A student nurse who spent weeks in a coma after contracting coronavirus said there were tears of joy when she finally went home and saw her children.
Natasha Jenkins, who is 35 and has 3 children, spent 22 days on a ventilator after falling sick just after Mother's Day. Nick Pallett has been speaking to her.
Oh, you really get a sense from her of the kind of ongoing impact if you've had coronavirus. And that was Nick Pallett reporting from Barry in South Wales.
Let's take a little look at some of the papers for you this morning.
What's going on with your phone this week?
I've just deleted that alarm.
You text me at 3:30 a.m. You've got alarms going off at 6:15 when you're clearly awake.
I think what I must have done, Louise, is somehow this morning I set an alarm for 6:15. I don't know. And even though you turned your phone off so it doesn't make a sound, alarms do come through.
It genuinely gave me a heart attack because I thought it was mine. I was like, what have I done now? Anyway,
apologies, everybody. I think we got away with it.
Let's look at the inside pages.
Yes, go on then. What have you got?
It's been a lovely sunny April, hasn't it? We know that.
Amazing, actually, yeah.
A bit disappointing yesterday, but it's official. The month has been the sunniest April on record, according to provisional. I know it's hard for people who can't get out in the sunshine, but it does bring sometimes a little bit of joy to see it, at least, doesn't it?
You know, lots of people are spending far more time at home, so they've got time to be creative. Would you like to have a look at
Go on, what have they done?
Craze? Mogs of War. Have a look at this. A cat looking slightly bemused by the whole thing.
This is kind of quite an unexpected story, isn't it? They're saying here, I think this is from the Mail.
It's a bit disappointing, isn't it? Right, now, I don't know if you're a conspiracy theorist, but show you some footage in a moment. The Pentagon have declassified film footage that seems to show the US Navy pilots encountering unidentified flying objects. Have a little look. Pilots who actually witnessed this says there's a whole fleet of them. Look at my readout, he says. They're going against the wind. It's 120 knots to the west. I don't understand. Just look at that thing. So,
I expect lots of people will go and look, won't they?
Make your own mind up.
18 minutes past 6. Let's go back to one of our main stories and the news that the number of coronavirus cases in America has now passed 1 million. More than 57,000 Americans have died.
Those figures come as pictures have. We are in the 6th week of a lockdown here in the UK, which has led to many of us feeling anxious and stressed about the situation.
Mental health charities have told BBC Breakfast that they are seeing increasing numbers of people asking for help to cope with the pandemic, as Tim Muffet reports.
Elsewhere this morning, in France, the government has announced a significant relaxing of restrictions. This takes place in the middle of next month, which they are saying is necessary to prevent economic breakdown.
The package of measures, which depends on infection rates remaining low, includes schools and shops reopening, and people will be able to travel within 60 miles of their home. Our Paris correspondent Lucy Williamson has the story. Just beginning to see, aren't we, how other countries are approaching easing of lockdown and perhaps a way out of where we are all at.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a big debate about what we should be doing in the UK in the coming weeks as well. We'll be speaking to the government, as per usual, at about 7:30 this morning.
Yep, and right now, Matt's got an update on the weather, and it looks nice from at least that picture. Morning. Thank you for being so cheery, Matt. We'll see you shortly.
Always very cheery. It's just gone 6:30 this morning. Good morning, watching Breakfast.
Yes, let's bring you up to date with the latest news and sport in a moment.
Good morning. It's that time of the day on Breakfast, just gone 6:30, when we are joined by a GP on the programme. And thank you once again for all the questions you've been sending in. Joining us from Chesham this morning. Think about that subject.
Good to speak to you as always. Yeah, we're speaking to Professor Jason Leach, who's actually National Clinical Director for the Scottish Government. So it's a really interesting discussion as well. 6:41, Sally.
I've got to say, I was impressed with Matt Taylor's good lady. Did a spectacular job on his barnet.
Very good. What about you, Dan?
Well, we had Nicky Clark on yesterday.
Yeah.
And he said, what did he say about fringe? You've got to cut a fringe dry, don't cut it wet.
Yeah.
And last week I just, placed it all over my forehead wet and then snipped away. But I think it's done all right.
Good for you.
Thank you.
Rainbows on windows, the Thursday night clap for our carers have all become part of lockdown life.
Well, now we've got the chance to show our appreciation for other key workers. Our posties, Adam McLean, has this report.
It's very interesting kind of looking back at all those scenes, how different things are going to have to be this year.
Yes, I don't know if you've got any lockdown plans for celebrating VE Day. Do let us know. We'd love to hear from you on that and anything else you'd like to get in contact with. And we'll also be speaking to Dan Snow a little bit later on because he is someone who's going to be involved in online and available history lessons on the day for all our children to sort of pay attention to see what's happening.
It is time right now for Green Goddess, the Green Goddess. She's back. Dana Moran has been helping us keep fit and active over the last few weeks. Let's
have another workout from the spandexed magician. Here she is.
You know what, that's just perfect for this time in the morning.
You enjoyed that one, didn't you?
Having a little bit of a stretch, yeah.
What sort of bending going on at the far end of the sofa this morning?
We'll have the headlines in a few minutes after a look at the weather. And I kind of really don't want to show you this picture because it's not looking great, Matt, is it?
Certainly not Brill.
There will be...
Very good morning. Welcome to Breakfast with Dan Walker and Louise Minchin.
It's exactly 7 o'clock. It's Wednesday morning. These are your headlines. Millions more. It's Wednesday, the 29th of April. The government has announced plans for millions more of us to be able to book a test for coronavirus from today.
All over 65s and anyone who needs to leave home to go to work will be eligible if they have symptoms of COVID-19. Other members of their household who become ill can also apply online.
Care home residents and staff in England are also being offered tests, even if they are showing no signs of the virus. Here's Dan Johnson with more. To George Eustace from the government at 7:30 today.
The number of coronavirus cases in the United States has now passed 1 million, nearly a third of the world's total.
That includes more than 57,000 deaths, which is now more than the number of Americans who were killed in the Vietnam War. Our North America correspondent Peter Bowes has this report. I saw that posted in the park the other day. Just someone stuck the lyrics on a big poster on a tree. Yeah, just as you.
It's a note of optimism which we all need, isn't it?
Yes, we need a sign of somewhere where it's going to all come to an end for us all. Well, anyone with symptoms of cancer is being urged to contact their GP today after NHS England revealed there's been a 70% drop in the number of referrals since the pandemic was declared.
A network of COVID-free hubs has now been set up across the country to make sure those who need urgent cancer treatment will get it. Our reporter Lucy Conn has been to see how one of them works. Really tough times for people. We're joined now from Southampton, watching that, thinking of you because this is very talks to what the situation you are in, and you were morning to you, and my thoughts really are with you because you were diagnosed in mid-March with breast cancer. Has the fact that we are in this extraordinary situation affected your treatment? Well, to hear that, Naomi Keeble, sorry. Thank you very much. sorry, maybe not sorry. Thank you very much. I'm glad you enjoyed that. And Peter Johnson, thank you.
I think Naomi took that as a compliment.
I think I might have, added to the cheeriness.
It's lovely to see the children having a really positive impact on the situation she's in at the moment, though.
She gave us a lovely smile then, too. 23 minutes past 7.
And now, when nurse Leona Harris noticed how lonely and isolated some of her COVID-19 patients were, she decided to do something about it.
Yeah, she started a fundraising campaign which raised more than £30,000 in just 1 week and has invested the money in tablets so that they can make video calls to their families and we can speak.
Thank you.
What an amazing scheme. What a wonderful woman. Can we have her on every day?
But there are so many people out there like that. She's brilliant. Just one example of many people who are doing great work.
I know a lot of people, you watch this programme every day and sometimes we have to bring you some pretty grim news, but there's some real positive stuff out there as well.
There's some real gems like her.
Absolute gems. And it's right, she's talking about celebrating every single person who leaves the hospital having been cured of coronavirus. And that's why there's such a brilliant job being done by people like her and many other people on the front line as well. So thank you for your incredible service over the last few weeks.
Should we catch up on the weather? It's just coming up to past. Matt's here. Morning.
Good morning, both of you.
Well, that's nothing we can do about it. Matt, thank you very much.
It feels like what April should be like. Matt, thank you very much for that. Good morning. You're watching Breakfast with Louise and Dan.
It's just after 7:30. A third of all coronavirus deaths in England and Wales happen in care homes. From today, residents and staff in England will be eligible for testing regardless of whether or not they have symptoms.
It's part of an expansion of who can register for a swab test, which now also includes anyone with symptoms who is over 65 or who needs to leave home to go to work. We're joined now from Cornwall.
You are watching Breakfast. In a few minutes' time, we're talking to somebody who's helping actually with mental health during what we're going through as well. Right now, though, we're going to talk about sport. And Sally, you know, so many people would love to have sport back, appreciate that we can't have it back. How is it going to come back?
Yeah, we've been...
What you said earlier, Louise, about, you know, for all of us who are going through whatever we're going through at the moment, that idea of, what you say earlier,
I
starting a race.
I didn't say it on air, but, you know, when you just start a marathon, you know it's going to end at 26.2 miles, and that in many ways helps you get there. Sometimes I think if there's no end, it's really, I think, you know, particularly this week, I don't know why I get the feeling that it's tough. For everybody. For
lots of people, because there's no,
yeah,
you know,
no end in
we're all
sight
involved in this
point.
sort of race, if you like, but we don't know where the finish line is.
Definitely not a race.
No, but you know what I mean, to use your analogy.
Yeah. Anyway, at 7:46, the fashion retailer Next says the repercussions from the coronavirus outbreak will be felt in the retail industry for longer than first anticipated. To that point we've been talking about. Sean has the details.
Morning.
Yeah, morning.
Sean, thank you.
We are into week 6 now of the lockdown in the UK, which has led to many of us feeling understandably anxious and stressed about the situation. We've been speaking about that a lot this morning.
Yeah, and mental health charities have told BBC Breakfast that they are seeing increasing numbers of people asking for help to cope with the pandemic, as Tim Muffet reports. And you can find out tips on how to look up.
Forward slashes and hyphens in there, but as Louise says, we'll put it out for you so you can find that if you do need it. You were saying earlier, weren't you, that it's been the warmest April, the sunniest April on record?
Or since for a while.
Yeah.
Matt's the expert.
Things have changed, Matt. Good morning.
Hello, very good morning and welcome to Breakfast with Dan Walker and Louise Minchin.
Headlines for you at 8 o'clock this morning. It's Wednesday, it's the 29th of April. Let's bring you the top stories this morning. The government has announced plans for millions more of us to be able to book a test for coronavirus from today.
All over 65s and anyone who needs to leave home to go to work will be eligible if they have symptoms of COVID-19. Other members of their household who become ill can also apply online.
Care home residents and staff in England are also being offered tests, even if they are showing no signs of the virus. Dan Johnson can bring us the story. The number of coronavirus cases in the United States has now passed the 1 million mark. That's nearly a third of the total right across the world.
That includes more than 57,000 deaths, which is now more than the number of Americans who were killed in the Vietnam War. Our North America correspondent Peter Bowes reports. I know lots of you have already been looking at the Just Giving site, and you've put it already on social media, haven't you? I'll do it on my own as well.
Amazing that there are people out there making a huge difference, aren't they?
If you are a key worker, over 65, or have to leave home to do your job, or you or anyone in your household has symptoms of COVID-19, you are now eligible to register for a coronavirus swab test.
There are 41 drive-through testing centres in the UK and 17 army-run mobile units. But will it be enough as testing becomes available to more of us?
We're joined now from South London.
The debate over whether we should wear masks or face coverings in public continues today after Scotland became the latest country to recommend covering your face in shops and public transport. Let's speak to Professor...
You know, we'll be discussing this over the next few weeks as well, won't we? Very much so.
What's the weather like where you are this morning? Let's find out what it's looking like for the UK for the next few days. Matt's with us this morning. Thank you, Matt. Well, I do. I'm one of those who likes a few showers for the plants in the garden.
Exactly. Gardeners will be happy.
Exactly.
Thank you so much. It's just after 8:30. You're watching Breakfast with Dan and Louise.
Let's bring you up to date with some of the main stories, because we wanted to talk to you about the planned street parties and parades to mark the 75th anniversary of VE Day. They can't go ahead next week. We all know the reasons why. But instead, the Queen will mark the occasion with a televised address to the nation.
We'll talk to some of those finding new ways to celebrate the event in a moment. First, let's look back on how people over the decades have celebrated the historic moment when the guns fell silent at the end of the Second World War in Europe.
And we are joined now by Rachel. Good morning to both of you. Thank you very much for being on the programme. Lovely to speak to you both. Rachel, we'll come to you first, because tell us, in the first instance, what did you have planned for VE Day and how have you had to change things around?
ways, aren't we, to interact with each other. Let's speak to Bob Gamble as well. Plans have had to change enormously, haven't they? So you presumably being hard at work. What do you want everybody to do on the day? Indeed for joining us, Bob Gamble from the Royal British Legion and Rachel Gerard Hart. Thank you both. I'm sure it will be. It sounds like you're going to have an amazing day. Thank you very much.
Sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun in Penryn next Friday. It's 8:40, and now we'll be talking to the historian Dan Snow in just a minute about his plans to teach our children about that moment in history. But first, let's take a look at how he brought VE Day celebrations to our living rooms 5 years ago.
So, and now it's going to be 75. Dan joins us now. We kind of look back, wasn't it? I mean, things have obviously changed. We're going to have to do it differently, and you're part of that.
I was talking about the importance, Dan, of sort of remembering this for the next generation as well. And I know you're really heavily involved in that with some live lessons and some online material for children. So what are you doing?
Yeah, well,
You're absolutely passionate about history, but the lessons that we can learn, you know, given what we're going through now from people of that generation, actually.
Well,
about the lockdown and these lives we're doing in people's houses is seeing what's going on
houses.
behind you. Are they three questions, right? Are they all history books? Dan, thank you very much for a
Good
little
stuff,
tour of
Dan.
your office as
yeah,
well.
thank you
Thanks,
very
guys.
much. You're absolutely right. It's looking behind. Brilliant. Well, good question.
Oh, we should say, Captain Tom, Louise mentioned the birthday, 100th birthday tomorrow. Make sure you're watching Breakfast in the Morning. We'll be part of all those celebrations, and we've got a few little surprises lined up for him as well.
It's going to be great. A student nurse who spent weeks in a coma after contracting coronavirus said there were tears of joy when she finally went home and saw her children.
Natasha Jenkins, who is 35 and has 3 children, spent 22 days on a ventilator after falling sick just before Mother's Day. Nick Pallett has been speaking to her.
Gosh, and watching that really gives you a sense of, the longer term impact. You don't just come out of hospital. You know, there's recovery
Ongoing
after that
problems.
as well. And that was Nick Pallett reporting from Barry in South Wales.
You've probably seen, or you may have yourself, rainbows on windows and Thursday night clapping for carers have all become part of life in lockdown.
And now we've got the chance to show our appreciation for some of our other key workers, our posties, as Adam McLean reports. The noughts and crosses, other things as well. We're joined now by Karen and her son. Much for joining
Morning.
us. Lovely to speak to you. And Karen, I saw when Max heard that on the telly, he was like, yes, whose idea was it, this noughts and crosses? It's brilliant.
What difference does that make to you doing the work that you're doing at the moment? By the way.
I've definitely won more than I've lost, yeah.
So Max, tell us. So how does it work? You put out the grid, do you? And who puts in the first nought or cross? Is it you?
Is it right, Andrew, that it's moved on to Connect 4 now? What's your Connect 4 talent like?
Yeah.
Lovely. So have things changed for you, Andrew, over the last few weeks?
Oh,
And there's a lot of love for people like yourself who are keeping the country going. Do you feel that appreciation in the same way that, you know, when we're here for the carers who are getting clapped every Thursday night, do you feel that you are, being well loved for the job that you're doing?
Start realising that, that Andrew is going to be an important part of your lockdown.
We try and sort of psych him out by going around the edge sometimes.
Well, they do. We alternate.
Competitive about it as well.
I absolutely love it. So presumably, Andrew, if you're having to play all these games, which obviously you're enjoying, a bit longer to get round.
Well, sometimes.
No, wondering about your tactics, Andrew.
No.
It's a lovely relationship which has sort of grown during lockdown. Do you think you'll carry on these games once we are out the other side of things?
Yeah, I'm quite happy with that. Make your day a little bit more.
Over those 27 years.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, when I first started, that was a 2-hour delivery. We used to go back. We used to have breakfast together.
Morning, Andrew. Keep doing your amazing job, and see if you can get the triple, the big Connect 4 triple, by winning all 3 games. And Karen and Max, thank you as well.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Oh, it's lovely to hear that as well. And we've had some joy on this programme today, haven't we?
We have, and thank you for the huge response we've had to the nurse, Leona Harris, who came on and spoke to Louise about this amazing thing she's doing. She works in a hospital in Bury, and she had the idea of trying to raise money to try and get tablets so that patients who were there could communicate with their families back at home. And I think her positivity has really shone through.
She talked about the joy, that it gave the people, didn't it, to be able to actually see their relatives when obviously they can't.
It's on the BBC Breakfast social media accounts if you'd like to watch it for the first time or watch it again. And don't forget Captain Tom's birthday tomorrow.
Yeah, that is it from us today. A very special programme celebrating Captain Tom's 100th birthday tomorrow.
See you then. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.